Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to another Friday program. Inshallah, this one's going to be jam-packed with a lot of interesting things. And also I'd like to congratulate everyone on the birth of the Prophet as well as Imam Sadiq. So can we have a salawat for that?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Inshallah, we're going to have some Quran by Brother Mirza, a lecture by Dr. Yasser, and then an interactive segment by Brother Mohammed inshallah. Can we begin inshallah with the recitation of the Quran? Can we welcome Brother Mirza with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما كان على النبي حرج فيما فرض الله له. سنة الله في الذين خلوا من قبل وكان أمر الله قدرا مقدورا. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله وكفى بالله حسيبا. ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا. اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا وسبحوه بكرة وأصيلا. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله وكفى بالله حسيبا. ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا وسبحوه بكرة وأصيلا. هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وكان بالمؤمنين رحيما. هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وكان بالمؤمنين رحيما. تحيتهم يوم يلقونه سلام وأعد لهم أجرا كريما. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsan for that beautiful recitation. So now, inshallah, also thank you for that beautiful recitation. Can we get another salawat?
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And what a surah to choose. It's very relevant, inshallah, and it might spoil a bit of, I guess, the things that are coming up. But for those that were paying attention to the Quran, it might help out very soon. Inshallah, now we'll have an awesome lecture by Brother Yasser. Yasser is a general practitioner, but has also gotten his master's in global politics, so he's very well versed in the political field, and inshallah he's going to talk to us today about the political mastermind and one of the best politicians, which was Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآله.
Put your hand up. No? Let's go. Bismillah. I hope this works. Yes. Alhamdulillah. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Alright, let's get to the first slide. So we're going to go through the story of the Prophet, and we're going to talk about what decisions he's made. This is the book, by the way, the 100. Okay, and Isaac Newton is number 2, and Jesus is number 3. Okay. Now, the timeline, so just so you understand what's been happening, in Mecca, in the year 610 AD, the Prophet starts his prophetic mission in the cave of Hira. Everyone, I'm hoping, knows the story, and Jibreel comes to him and says, Aqra. I think you can see these slides on your phones. Can you see them on your phone? Okay, so if you can't see up here, you can look on your phone. He spends 3 years spreading Islam in secret, and then 9 years spreading it publicly in Mecca. And in that whole time, they're persecuted. Persecuted to such extent that some of them have to emigrate to Abyssinia. The first martyrs occur here. In this time, the isolation of the Prophet and his tribe results in the death of his uncle, the death of his wife. It's a horrible, horrible time. Then the tribes of Medina, the 2 main tribes of Medina, accept Islam. And they ask the Prophet to come and lead them. The main tribes in Medina were these 2, the green ones, Al-Aws and the Khazraj. These 2 tribes, for many, many, many decades, or many, many years, even longer probably, had been almost in perpetual war. Every few months or every little while, this clan would be fighting that clan. The other clans, the other tribes in Medina, were 3 main Jewish tribes. They're the ones in blue. I apologize for my pronunciation if it's wrong. It's Banu Qaynuqa, not an easy one, Banu Qurayza and Banu Nadir. These were the main 3 tribes in Jewish tribes in Medina. And what would usually happen is Al-Aws would usually have the Banu Qurayza siding with them, and the Khazraj would have the Qaynuqa siding with them, and Banu Nadir would be somewhere in the middle, sometimes siding here, sometimes siding there. They were the bigger of the 3 Jewish tribes. Okay? So when the 2 Arab tribes, the Khazraj and Aws, accepted Islam, and the Prophet came to lead them, they settled their differences. Okay? So this is the political setup of Medina. Alright. So first question, ready? So, what would you do if you were in charge of Medina? You get rid of I'll use this from here. Alright. So, what would you do if you're in charge of Mecca? Do you ensure the Muslims are united and speak with one voice? Make it legally advantageous to be a Muslim, to make it attractive for others to join. 2, do you play the Jewish tribes against one another? Support each group to undermine the other. 3, do you give equal rights to Muslims and Jews, stipulating that Jews must not plot against Muslims? 4, do nothing. Focus just on the Muslims and ignore the Jewish tribes. And 5, give the Jewish tribes a period of notice, and then demand that they leave Medina, as it is now the Muslim capital. Alright. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds, decide what you're doing. Come on, the last 4 was moving on. You're going to be marked wrong. 3. I'm going to stop at 200. The answer is, you give equal rights. You give equal rights to Muslims and Jews. Because in Islam, justice is first and above all else. The Prophet established what's called the Charter of Medina. This is historically the first ever constitution ever written in history. Okay? It gave equal rights to both Muslims and Jews, which was unheard of and unprecedented. It stipulated that the Jews have to support the Muslims politically, meaning that they don't plot against them, they don't trade with their enemies, but that they were exempt from military service, that only the Muslims would fight militarily. So if Medina is attacked, the Muslims would defend the Muslims and the Jews. Okay? What are the lessons that we learn from this? That in Islam, justice is for all, not just Muslims. This is something that we mostly, and I speak for myself, don't apply to our day-to-day lives. If I hear there's a fight between a Muslim and a non-Muslim, I'm already biased to the Muslim before I've even heard anything. Alright. In 624, very shortly after arriving to Medina, the Battle of Badr occurs. This is the first battle, the first major battle in Islam. Now, when the Muslims had migrated from Mecca to Medina, the mushrikeen in Mecca decided that all the belongings of the Muslims that they had left behind was theirs now. So they took all their belongings and they were planning to go sell them in Syria in the north for profit. And the Muslims were very upset about this. So they tried to raid the caravan that was going to take all these things. They sent out 313 people to go and raid this caravan. The mushrikeen got wind of this. So they quickly put together an army of almost 1,000 fighters. And the Muslimin were suddenly finding themselves from being raiders of a caravan to being in the midst of a war or a battle where they were outnumbered 3-1. And still they won. So they came back to Medina. And in Medina, the Jewish tribe Barakah were very upset by this news. They heard about this and they said, that's great. The Muslims are going to be finished, 3-1, Muhammad's gone. Then we can go back to normal. We can start trading with Mecca again and make good profits. What happened was they started to harass the Muslims if they came to their markets. They would jeer them in the streets. And there's a story, I don't know how true it is, but there's a story that a Muslim woman went to a jeweler from Banu Qaynuqa, and she wanted to buy some jewelry, and she was wearing a khamar, and he said to her, I won't trade with you or talk to you unless you remove that from your face. She refused. So what he did is he pinned her skirt to his table so that when she got up, her skirt tore and her legs were shown. The man that was with her straight away killed that shopkeeper in his spot. The other shopkeepers killed him. So you can imagine now the whole city is really tense. It's about to ignite like this. So the Prophet says to them, he reprimands them, and he says to the Barakah, he advises them to be rational and sensible, and he warned them against any further transgressions. Their response came. They said to him, "O Prophet, O Muhammad," they don't acknowledge he's a Prophet, "O Muhammad, you seem to think that we are your people. Don't deceive yourself, because you encountered a people with no knowledge of war and got the better of them." They're referring to Badr. "For by God, if we fight you, you will find out we are real men." What is your response? Next question. What is your response? One, do you declare war and besiege them? Two, do you give them a final warning to de-escalate? Three, do you invite their leaders for a meeting to de-escalate? Four, do you ignore their empty talk and don't fall for their bait? Five, do you say peace to them, reminding the Muslims of this ayah from the Quran? The true servants of the Merciful One are those who walk on the earth gently, and when the foolish ones address them, they simply say peace to you. Surah Al-Furqan. وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. Alright. I'll give you 10 more seconds because there's a lot to go through. 10 more seconds, just choose something. Alright, that's it. We're ending. The answer, let's see how many of you got it. The answer is declare war. Besiege them. Yeah. See? We need political leaders who are decisive. How many got it right? 8. What are the lessons that you learned here? 1, stick to your word. Be clear, then follow through. Now parents know that this is extremely important when bringing up your kids. If you just give empty warnings, your word means nothing. 2, now a lot of you chose options which are effectively inaction. It is much easier and to justify in your mind and easier to implement to not do anything. To say, look, let's just calm it down. But actually inaction is a terrible option. There's that famous philosophical question. I should read that for later. Where if you've got a train coming and there are 10 people on the track and they're not aware, they're workers, they're unaware that a train is coming. And you can see it's going to run them over and kill all 10 of them. And you can divert the train to another track. The other track has one worker working on it. If you press the button, you are responsible for the death of that one person. If you do nothing, it's not your fault. 10 people will get killed. Most people choose to not press the button, because it is easier to not do something than to be responsible for something. A leader, a political leader, does not fear responsibility. So stick to your word and don't choose inaction. Alright. So the Muslims besieged the Banu Qaynuqa for 2 weeks, and eventually they surrendered. the Prophet ordered the execution of all fighting men of Banu Qaynuqa. Now, this is a universal law wherever you go. Treachery against the state is punishable by death, everywhere. And if you remember in the Charter of Medina, he had given them equal rights. It's not like he didn't give them an opportunity. It wasn't like he wasn't fair to them. Okay? And then he gave them a warning. And instead of heeding the warning, they threatened and declared war on him effectively. That was a declaration of war. Saying, you want to see what kind of men we are? That's a declaration of war. The leader of the Khazraj, do you remember in pre-Islamic time, the Khazraj used to be buddies with the Qaynuqa. The leader lobbied for the Prophet to not execute them. So, what are you going to do? Alright, what are you going to do? I'll read out the answers for those who aren't following on the phone. 1. Order the execution of the leader of the Khazraj with the rest of the fighting men of Banu Qaynuqa. 2. Ignore him. Treason must always be punished by death. 3. Execute only the leaders of Banu Qaynuqa. 4. Exile the entire tribe out of Medina. 5. Allow them to stay, but they must hand over all their weapons and pay an annual financial penalty, similar to what happened to Germany after World War I. All right, 10 more seconds. Come on, make a decision. 10 more seconds. What I'm giving you is the options that were there for the Prophet. So if you find this difficult, this is reality, this is life. All right, that's enough time. The answer: you exile them. You agree to not execute them and exile the entire tribe out of Medina. Excellent. The majority got it right. Probably because they know the answer. Okay. What are the lessons that you learned from this? Before I go to the next slide, what are the lessons that you learned from this?
Flexibility.
Flexibility, okay. So when I say lessons, I want us, this is not a story. These are important lessons for us to apply in our lives so that we become good leaders, good political leaders. Okay?
Yeah,
what is the lesson?
Listening to others as well. The other probably political or kind of figures.
So listening to others is one? Advice, yep. Listening to advice.
Removing the threat.
Removing the threat, okay. Any others?
When you are in a position and you're in a low weight, you have to be decisive. But when you're in a position that you are strong, you have to show mercy.
That's the lesson. Well done. When you are in a position of power, show mercy. That is the time to show mercy. When you are weak and you show mercy, that doesn't look like mercy, it looks like weakness. Okay? Alright. So then what happens? Then the Battle of Uhud happens. In the Battle of Uhud, the Muslims, by the way, if you look through history, every single battle Muslims take part in, they're outnumbered several to one. Always. Okay? In Uhud, they had their best numbers. 754 against the Mushrikeen 3,200. Now the ultimate outcome was a loss, but it actually was about to be a win. In Uhud, the Prophet placed some archers on top of a hill, and the Muslims were centered right next to the hill. And he told the archers, stay on the hill, do not come down, no matter what. And the mushrikeen came and started to fight, and the Muslimin were winning. The mushrikeen started to run away. They were fleeing the battle. That's how good it was going. The people on top of the hill started saying, that's it, we've won. They've all gone, they're running. If we stay on this hill, we're not going to get any of the loot. Let's go down and get some of the loot so that we don't miss out. As those Muslims came down, the mushrikeen horsemen saw them coming down, and they circled around the hill and attacked the Muslims from behind. And the mushrikeen that were running away turned around, and the Muslims got crushed in between. The Prophet got injured in this battle. There was a cry that the Prophet actually got killed. It became like a statement that people were saying. Lots of Muslims fled the battlefield, some prominent Muslims. They fled the battlefield to the mountains. Okay? Only Imam Ali and a couple of other people stayed with the Prophet and fought tooth and nail to get him out of there. So, the Muslims go back to Medina defeated. There, the Jewish tribe of Banu Nadir had heard that the Muslims had been defeated. But here's the Prophet returning. Nothing seems to have changed. Islam is still around. These people are still going to the mosque. They're still in control of Medina. It's like nothing happened. They were really upset. So social unrest started again between the Jews and the Muslims in Medina. Banu Nadir hatched a plan. They decided to invite the Prophet for a debate, a religious debate. And they told him, this will help settle the dispute going on in Medina. But we'd like it to be a religious debate, only bring 3 people with you. He accepted. On his way there, he learned that they were planning to assassinate him. There are narrations that say the Wahy came and told him this. There are narrations that say actually the Prophet had a spy in the tribe. Someone from their tribe had converted to Islam. And the Prophet told him, don't come with us, stay with them, pray in your house, keep safe, and then you can tell us if there's anything going on. And he came and told him, don't go, they're planning to assassinate you when you're there. So what do you do? Next question. What is your response to Banu Nadir? One, declare war. Attack them and lay siege to them. 2, expose their plot and give them 48 hours to leave Medina or you will attack. 3, expose their plot to show them your knowledge of the unseen and invite them to Islam. 4, give an excuse why you can't go to the meeting. Keep the knowledge of their plot to yourself and your main companions, so you can work out the best response to them. 5, don't go, but send a private message that you know what they had plotted. Use this as leverage against them in the future. What are you going to do? Alright, we're going to move on. Answer now quickly, you've got 2 seconds. 1, 0. Alright. Declare war. Attack them. Besiege them. After putting the years in so that you can see, you can try and follow it through the years in the back. All right, excellent. So some people are getting the hang of this. Okay. What is the lesson that you learned from this? What are the lessons that you can learn from this? Hands up. What are the lessons we're learning from this? Remember, it's not just a game. I know I'm playing a game, but this is real events. What are the lessons we can learn from this?
Yes, again, stick to your word.
Stick to your word, Ahsan. What else? What else? When someone tries to backstab you, there is no return. Trust is gone. Full stop, new line. Finished. Second, don't reveal all your resources. This spy that he had, now imagine, he could have told that guy, oh, now you're part of the Muslim Ummah, come live with, in the Muslim quarters, come attend Friday prayers, come pray behind us, listen to my lectures. He didn't tell him any of that. He gave him a responsibility. He said to him, stay where you are and be decisive. All right. Now, the Muslims besieged Banu Nadir. For 2 weeks, they held them in the forts that they kept. And eventually, Banu Nadir agreed to surrender. But they said, we're only going to surrender on these terms. Otherwise, we're going to die in blood of glory. The terms were that we get to leave Medina with all our wealth, all our money, all our jewelry, all our anything that we can carry, we can take. So, what are you going to decide for this? What's your response? Accept the surrender, but know that this will not solve the problem of Banu Nadir. Only delay the inevitable fight to another day when they may be stronger and they'll have allies. 2. Refuse these terms and insist that they exile without their wealth. 3. Refuse these terms and continue fighting, knowing that the fighting will result in the death of many Muslims because they are a large and strong tribe. Everyone have answers? Or are you still debating amongst yourselves? Alright. I'll give you 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, 0. The answer is you accept the surrender, which 21 got correct. Well done. Banu Nadir put on their finest clothes and their finest jewelry, and they lived on the outskirts of Medina. Yet they rode their camels and their horses through the whole of Medina, parading themselves in all their pride and glory before they left Medina, to rub it in the face of Muslims. Okay, to show them that we haven't lost, we're leaving with everything we have. So what are the lessons we learn here?
Avoid death.
Avoid death? But this is only delayed death.
Yeah.
They're going to have to face them later on.
Give them a chance.
Give them a chance? No, that's it. You gave them a chance. What are the lessons that we learn here?
Show mercy while in power.
Show mercy while in power. Okay, yes. Good. Yes. That's a recurrent theme, by the way. Mustafa.
That the most important issues are the ones that are happening right now. So if you could delay an issue to later.
You want to delay an issue?
It's the best possible option.
Okay. Yes. In politics, this is the reality, by the way. This is what many people, especially armchair commentators who sit and commentate about what's going on. Oh, I don't like this, what's this? This is the reality of politics. In politics, there almost is never a good option. There's bad and worse. And you have to be smart enough and wise enough to actually realize and differentiate between bad and worse, and choose the bad over the worse. Alright. As you can see, the Muslims were in a battle one after the other after the other. So the Mushrikeen go, okay, look, we won the battle of Uhud, but nothing's really changed. These Muslims are still sitting in Medina. They still have the opportunity to raid our caravans as they go up to Syria. Let's attack them and go to Medina and finish them and kill the Prophet once and for all. Banu Nadir, who had now been exiled, came to the Mushrikeen and said to them, look, we'll finance this war. Gather as big an army as you can, and we'll give you shares of our profits from our yield next year. Just win this battle. So the Battle of the Trench commenced. The Battle of the Trench in 627 had 3,000 Muslims in Medina against a massive army of 10,000 mushrikeen. The Prophet had spies that were looking out and came to give him word that a massive army, unseen in the Arab wars, was marching towards Medina. So what did he do? He asked the companions for ideas. And Salman al-Farisi said, what we should do is build a trench. Medina, or Salman Muhammadi, Medina is surrounded by mountains on three sides. Even on the back there's mountains. An army that size can't cross mountains. They have to come through the plains. So the idea was that they would build a trench across there and across the part where there's low mountains to defend Medina that way. So they quickly scrambled to make to make the trench. Now the idea of the trench is that it's so deep and so wide that you can't jump over it. You have to go in it and then come out the other end. That gives the defenders the opportunity to pick you off and stop you from invading their country. The Mushrikeen had a massive confederate army. They had people from different tribes. Some of the famous ones were from, I think it's Bani Asad, or Bani As'ad, Bani Ghatfan, Bani Sulaym, and lots of others. Okay? Now, while this is happening, the leader of Banu Nadir, do you remember the people that got exiled? He sends a message to the one remaining Jewish tribe in Medina. And he says, I'd like to have a meeting with you. So they accept, and they make they send him someone to bring him secretly through the mountains, and he meets with the last Jewish tribe. And he says to them, look, if you attack the Muslims now from inside Medina, from their rear, it will be the easiest victory of all. Because as soon as you do that, it'll give the opportunity for the 10,000 to cross the trench, and the Muslims will be finished. And we are done. And you can have the spoils of war. Initially they were reluctant, but eventually he convinced them. They said, okay, we'll go along with this. The Prophet gets wind of this. Now, whether it's from Wahi or whether from someone he has a spy in their tribe, it doesn't matter. Okay? What are you going to do? Your 3,000 men is barely enough to cover the line of the trench. It's not even enough. It's like they keep scrambling from running from here to here just to cover enough ground. Okay? What are your resources? Your resources are, you have 3,200 men, which I said is barely enough to man the trench. You have 5,000 roughly women and children. You have the Charter of Medina, which is your deal, the remaining deal with the remaining Jews in Medina. You have a respected elder that's in the Ghatfan tribe who secretly become a Muslim. He's still on the other side. You have a member of the Bani Qurayza, that's the Jewish tribe that's left in Medina, who is secretly a Muslim. And you also have the public purse, the public money of the Muslims, Baytul Mal. Okay? These are the taxes, the zakat that the Muslims pay. These are your resources. What are you going to do? Go. The options are attack them before they attack you. You will have to sacrifice a portion of your men who are defending the trench and hope that it goes okay.
Attack Jews or attack Muslims?
Attack the Jews, yes. Banu Qurayza. Attack the Jews. That's 2. Send your women and older children to set up makeshift defensive positions to stop the Banu Qurayza from advancing towards the men defending the trench. 3. Use the public funds to give them an offer for financial reward as much as they were expecting to get from siding with the mushrikeen, to not get involved. Get your secret agents in their tribe to encourage the elders to take this deal. 4. Send the elder from Banu Ghatfan to play the Banu Qurayza and the mushrikeen against each other. 5. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, this is the Prophet. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the earth swallow up the Banu Qurayza for their treachery. Alright, apparently I've only got 10 minutes, so we're going to go through this a bit quicker. If you haven't answered, answer now because I'm about to stop it. Make a decision. Let's see how many got it right. 20 got it right. The Prophet sent the elder from Bani Ghatfan to play the two sides against each other. He crossed the mountain and met with the Banu Qurayza, with the Jewish tribe in Medina. And he said to them, you should attack the Muslims. This is your best opportunity. Okay? And the mushrikeen will be happy to make allies with you. We've already talked about it. Okay? But this is my advice to you. These Meccans sometimes double-cross people. So they sometimes tell you they're going to give you X amount, and in the end they give you much less. So ask them to give you a couple of their elders as hostages just to prove their sincerity. And if they say no, it means they have no intention of actually giving you what they're promising. And then he crossed back over the mountain and went to the mushrikeen and said to them, you should side with these Jews. This is your best opportunity to win. But if they ask you for hostages, know that they're playing a treacherous game. You can never trust Jews. They will take these two elders and give them to the Muslims to show them how loyal they are. So a meeting takes place between the mushrikeen and the Banu Qurayza. And they agree to take part in the war. And then they make the request for the hostages. And then everything breaks down. They start accusing each other of things, and it almost comes to fistfights. And eventually, the mushrikeen cannot cross the trenches, their resources run out. The weather, Allah sends the worst weather and storms that makes their life a misery, and they eventually turn around and go back. So now, what are the lessons? Make allies in secret, not just in public. Okay? Give them responsibility and mission, like we said before. Utilize each person. Play your enemies against each other. Sometimes you don't have to do anything. You have to just play it right so that your enemies are engaged with one another. Finally, don't be naive. You should always assume the best in others. But that does not mean you are not prepared for dishonesty. Okay? Sometimes we are always assuming the worst of others. Because life has taught us that most people will do something bad to us. That's wrong. And then there are others who are just gullible. And they think everyone is great like them. Everyone is honest and this is wrong, that's wrong. Assume the best in people, but be prepared for the worst.
Also, of secret agents.
Yes. Alright. Then, just a year later, I think a year later, the Prophet has a dream. The dream, the Prophet saw that he was doing tawaf around the Kaaba. The Prophet understands that this dream is not a normal dream. It is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he tells the Muslims, we're going on pilgrimage. And most of them are like, are you crazy? They just tried to kill us. They've been wanting to kill us all this time. We're going to just walk into Mecca and you think they'll let us? Eventually, 1,500 go with him, unarmed, because they're going for pilgrimage, in their ihramat. And they take with them the animals that they're going to slaughter, because they need to do, slaughter for pilgrimage. The mushrikeen get wind of this. They send out 200 horsemen to try and kill these people as they come, these unarmed Muslims. The Prophet takes them on an unconventional route and avoids being caught, and reaches the outskirts of Mecca. Now, the rules of engagement in that time were a certain region around Mecca, there weren't allowed to be any wars or any battles or any killings. Okay? And so the Muslims got to that point. So now the mushrikeen were forced to talk to them. So the mushrikeen send a guy called Abu Yazid, different Abu Yazid, to reach a settlement with them. Okay? We were going to do an activity, there's no time for the activity, so let me just tell you what. They have negotiations. You're going to decide what to do in these negotiations. What is your response to the terms of peace offered by the mushrikeen of Mecca? The mushrikeen of Mecca say to you, we'll offer you 10 years of peace, but you are not to do pilgrimage this year. Get lost. You're not getting such a thing. You can come next year, but you're not entering Mecca this year. 2, if anyone from the Muslimin leaves Medina and goes to Mecca, then we get to keep him. If anyone leaves Mecca, becomes a Muslim, leaves Mecca and flees to Medina, then you, O Prophet, have to hand him back to us. Did you understand the terms? If a mushrik becomes a Muslim and goes to Medina, the Prophet has to hand him back to the mushrikeen. If a Muslim leaves Medina, goes to the mushrikeen can keep him. So, what do you do? Do you want? Let me load up the answers. Has everyone answered? 1. Do you outright reject such a thing? Walk away. This is an insult to Islam. It sacrifices the lives of future Muslims, and it's an unjust deal. 2. Do you try and negotiate strongly to get a fairer deal that protects the lives of Muslims? Or 3, do you accept the deal because peace is worth the price? Alright. taking a long time. All right. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on, give your answer. All right. You accept the deal. This deal arguably, historians argue that Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, which is what this is called, was the most important moment in the history of Islam. That it was this deal that guaranteed the survival of Islam. And when the Prophet made this deal, some Muslims were so upset about this, some prominent Muslims said to him, "You call yourself a prophet? How can you agree to such an unjust and horrible and degrading deal? You've degraded us as Muslims by signing this deal." And yet it was this deal that changed the entire Arabian Peninsula. It gave the Muslims peace, and in that time of peace, they went around to all the different tribes. And the hadiths of that time say that there was no tribe where we sat down and talked logically with them, with logic and reason, that did not accept Islam. This treaty was meant to be for 10 years. It was broken by the Mushrikeen after less than 2 years. So just 22 months. In 22 months, almost the entire Arabian Peninsula had become Muslim. It was amazing. Now, you've just signed this deal. This deal gives you peace with the people, Mushrikeen of Mecca. Okay? The lesson quickly. Don't be distracted by trying to make a deal fair. Focus on getting the main thing you want. Don't look at fairness when you're making a deal with your enemy. Know what you want and make sure you get it. Who cares how unjust the deal is? Okay? So, next question. After the treaty, what do you do? What do you do next? 1. Use the peacetime to strengthen your numbers and resources. 2. And attack the Jews, which includes Banu Nadir, in the forts of Khaybar now. 3. Wait to replenish your numbers and your resources and then attack the Jews in the forts of Khaybar. Or 4. Use the peacetime to strengthen your numbers and resources so that your enemies will not attack you due to your strength and numbers. There's only one more question after this, so we're almost done.
Number 1 and 4 are very similar. Number 1 and 4.
All 4 very هذا شغل السيارة بالطريقة. Come on, we don't have time. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Make a decision. They're not complicated. 2 seconds. That's it, we're done. All right. From all those modes, I'm guessing mostly got it wrong. Yes, only 7 people got this right. They went, the Prophet said to them, now we go attack Khaybar. We go attack Banu Nadir. Because those people have all their wealth, all their resources. And now we don't have an enemy to our back. We can focus on them and wipe out the last remaining threat. And then we'll have true peace. Then we can actually spread Islam. What's the lesson that you learn from this? Don't wait for the ideal time. There is no such thing. Inaction, we've done this before. Inaction can often be more attractive and easier in the short term. It's very easy to justify. Look, we'll go back, we'll get some rest, we've just gone from one war to the next, let's get our energy back, let's grow our numbers, let's get our weapons ready, then we'll attack. Inaction can be easy to justify. Don't take it. The hard decision has to be taken. When the treaty was broken 22 months later, the Prophet said to the Muslims, the treaty is broken, we're going to go to Mecca. 10,000 Muslims joined the army. 10,000. They walked into Mecca without anyone spilling any blood. It was such a large mass of army that there was no way to defend Mecca. The Meccans just gave up. So you enter Mecca. What are you going to do with the mushrikeen in Mecca? Last question. One, execute all the men of fighting age in Mecca. Remember, these are your lifelong enemies. These are the people that killed your wife, that killed your uncles, that killed so many Muslims. Two, execute the main leaders of Mecca. Three, hold trials to judge those who have killed any Muslims in the past. Four, exile the mushrikeen from Mecca. Five, give a blanket amnesty, a pardon to all the mushrikeen of Mecca. 10 more seconds. Five. Alright, we're done. I'm hoping most people have seen the movie Film al-Risala or The Message, so they know the answer. Yes. Give a blanket amnesty. What's the lesson? We've done this before. What's the lesson? Mercy and power. When you are in a position of power, show mercy. Alright. And that's a brief history of the politics of the Prophet. Okay? Now, I've listed the summary of the lessons. I'll read them out very quickly, just because we really need to take these on board. Most people, if we look at the answers, most people actually got it wrong. The vast majority of us make incorrect decisions. Justice is for all, not just for Muslims. Justice has no eye for religion. 2, stick to your word. Be clear and then follow through. 3, inaction can be more attractive and easier in the short term. Don't take it. 4, when should you be merciful? In a position of power. When someone tries to backstab you, there is no return because there is no trust. 6, do not reveal all your resources. Be decisive. In politics, this is a really important one. In politics, there is often no good option. There's only bad and worse. 9, make allies in secret, not just in the open, and give them a responsibility. Utilize each person that you have. Play your enemies against one another. Don't be naive. Assume the best in others, but be prepared for dishonesty. Don't just be distracted by trying to make a fair deal with your enemy. Only focus on your main objective. Don't wait for the ideal time. There is no such thing. Inaction, we've done this before, can be more attractive and easier in the short term, but don't take it. والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
لا تبقى
صل على محمد وآل محمد. Ahsan, Brother Yasser, for that amazing speech. I think it's very important to draw those parallels of that early Islam where there was so little Muslims and so many non-Muslims, and our daily lives now where we are so little Muslims in a country filled with non-Muslims, and now we need to make those political decisions and make those strides to grow Islam and to spread the message of Islam. Inshallah, now we'll invite Brother Mohammed up to lead our short segment as well as giving us some upcoming programs, inshallah. صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamualaikum everyone. How's everyone enjoying the night so far? Alhamdulillah, Dr. did a great job and already did an interactive session, so we won't really do another interactive session. Just a few announcements, and then I just want to do a short activity, more for the benefit of us and the community, inshallah, moving forward. This is an initiative, part of the Clean Up Australia initiative. We go around to a park, Jack Roper Reserve in Broadmeadows, which is probably a park you're all quite familiar with. Pick up rubbish, clean up the parks, and then have a little picnic together, inshallah, afterwards. Lots of reasons to do this. This is a very small step towards getting our community more outdoors, more connected with nature and our fitrah, inshallah, but also recognizing the importance of caring for the world and the society that we live in. After all, this earth was one of the greatest creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He provided it to us to live on it and to nurture our soul through it. And it's a responsibility for all human beings to look after something that Allah has given to you. So inshallah, it's one small step. Inshallah, there'll be more activities, more initiatives along this type of activity, inshallah, I'm doing forward. The registration forms have already been posted in the announcement, so please register if you're interested, inshallah. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The second thing we want to do today, and we'll try not to spend too much time on it, is a little activity to get your feedback or your ideas and suggestions for what you'd like to see in the month of Ramadan that's upcoming, inshallah, next year. Alhamdulillah, we've had the opportunity to secure a sheikh from Sydney who's going to stay with us for the whole month, inshallah. And we want to get your feedback early on, your ideas, your suggestions, and what you'd like to see, so that we can, inshallah, communicate with the sheikh and try and bring some of these programs to you. Now, to do this, we're going to trial a new tool called Polis. So I'll just explain how this works briefly.
Can we have the code?
So that's what it's going to look like when you go on the website. I'll go back to the website very quickly in a second. Essentially, there's going to be some statements like this one. We should have open group discussions with a scholar. All you have to do is go through the statements and press agree, disagree, or pass if you're not really sure. Once you finish those statements, at the bottom, you can put your own statements. So you might have your own feedback or your own ideas that you want to give. And you might say, oh, well, actually, I want to have, it would be good to have, I don't know, daily Quran tafsir or something. Whatever you want to have. You can give feedback about topics you want to see. You can give feedback about types of activities you want to have. Whatever you want. Just keep the statement simple with just one idea. And then that statement will be sent to other people to vote on as well. So send as many statements as you want, as many suggestions as you want. You can even say things like, I don't want to have this, or we should not have this, as an example. And we'll just spend about 10 minutes, so stay on your devices for about 10 minutes. And inshallah, this. If you can imagine what will happen at the end of it, a lot of statements will be coming through. A lot of people, all of you will be voting on these statements as they're coming through, so you might just have to refresh your page. And at the end, we'll have a very nice summary of the statements that people agree most with.